What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tribe of Millionaires podcast from GoBundance. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber. Today, we welcomed in Shelby Osborne, one of our GoBundance women's members, and she talked about her background as an Army veteran, her current status as a real estate investor, and why she's converting from long-term to short-term rentals in her portfolio, which she scaled very quickly at a very young age. She's doing incredible things in this space. Check out all of what she's doing at her Instagram handle, Real Estate with Shelby Osborne. That's Osborne. You'll see a ton of what she's got going on, both as an EXP agent as well as a real estate investor and short-term real estate investor. So we dive deep on topics related to growing up with an Army Ranger father, to what it was like to be a veteran of the Army and what that taught her and informed her in converting over to being a real estate investor, and even breaking with tradition a little bit and going down a path that maybe wasn't what her parents had envisioned for her, and how she overcame, pushed through, and became the investor and realtor that she is today. All of that and so much more in this episode with Shelby. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so that we can continue to deliver more and more content to you. But until then, let us know what you think about this episode with Shelby Osborne. Have you dreamed of being part of GoBundance, the tribe of millionaires, but maybe you're just not quite there yet on the balance sheet? You haven't hit that $1 million net worth, but you understand the value of being part of this community and part of this brand, and why the 6 pillars are so important, and they're important to you. Well, we got a great opportunity for any one of you out there that are seeking one day to be whole life millionaires and join GoBundance. That is our Emerge program from GoBundance. My name's Jamie Gruber. I'm host of the GoBundance Podcast, founder of the Emerge program, and I'm proud to say that we've been able to put a couple of hundred students through the Emerge program with stellar results. They've been able to achieve goals, transform their lives, and get to the next level of life that they aspire to simply by being part of this incredible program. With the Emerge program, we have 3 objectives. The first is to create transformation. You're going to establish a goal at the very beginning of this 12-week course. And every week, you're going to get a content drop. You're going to get curriculum. You're going to get support from the community in you achieving that goal by the end of the 12 weeks. Along with that, our second objective is proximity. You're going to have proximity to like-minded people, just like you, people that you don't have in your regular life right now, that you can relate to and talk about what it is you're trying to achieve in life. And they're going to hold you accountable to whatever you say you want to do, or better yet, whoever you say you want to be. With proximity also comes the GoBundance community. Every Tuesday evening, we bring in a GoBundance member and we Q&A them in our Millionaire Case Study segment. Right before that, you get to hang out with your fellow Emerge members on Tuesday evening. And Thursday morning, Diego Corzo comes live to you to teach you about different areas of being a whole life millionaire. And lastly, our third objective, we're going to be watching. We want to make sure you're accountable to achieving what you want and finishing this course. And if you do, you'll get an exclusive invite to our Ascend Mastermind, where we can really dive in and dig deep on getting you to that whole life millionaire status. Go to GoBundance.com/emerge, put in coupon code EMERGE for $200 off this one-time charge and lifetime access to the Emerge program. You won't regret it. Check out what it's done for other people on the website, and I hope to see all of you in Emerge. Shelby Osborne from our GoBundance Women's Tribe. How are you, Shelby?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
I love that you're here. For those watching on video, you'll see the North Carolina loyalty that she has by wearing it literally on her sleeve, shirt, whatever it may be. But let's dive in. So I'm assuming North Carolina is part and parcel of your story. Give us your story from the time you were born through now. What's the story of Shelby Osborne?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So once upon a time, I was born back in 1990, and my dad was in the Army. My dad was infantry, super aggressive is the wrong word, but very motivated, focused. Sure. And I grew up in that sort of environment and that sort of household. And it was very supportive, but I do think that the structure and the standards in which I was brought up in have infiltrated every piece of my life. And so we moved every single year growing up. And I was the new kid every single year until 7th to 8th grade. And that also shaped me and the ability to walk in somewhere where you don't know anyone and walk out with some friends. And I was a competitive gymnast as well growing up. So I was in the gym for 4 to 5 hours every single day from Monday through Saturday. And I did well. I was in the Junior Olympics national championships twice. So basically that was my childhood. It's funny. I normally don't dig into that part on podcasts. I usually just start in, which is where I'll go into now, which I graduated college and went into the military for 6 years and was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, and then PCS, which is moved essentially to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so I did love parts of the Army when I was in it. I was in human resources, so I did the paperwork part of it, but I still got to do the fun stuff. So like go to ranges, and then I was airborne, so I got to jump out of airplanes, and I was air assault honor grad, so I got to rappel out of helicopters, and all that was really fun. But then it gets to a point where you're starting to notice as you become more comfortable. Oh, you look like you're going to ask something.
No.
We're going to ask. Oh,
I was just adjusting.
Oh. Gotcha. It's kind of like with anything, as you begin to settle into a role in an organization, you start to pick your head up from just survival mode and look around. And I became increasingly frustrated with a lot of the things that I saw in regards to like inefficiencies or the way decisions were made or the quickness of decisions that impacted and had this ripple effect. And I looked ahead to what my future could be for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I saw what that was in the military. And although I love the military for so many reasons, I decided to get out and pursue real estate full time as an investor first, and then also as an agent, because I wanted to stop trading my time for money. And real estate, after doing some research, was the perfect avenue for that. And so then after I got out of the military, this is 2018 now. January 2018 is when I started to dive in full time. By the end of 2018, I was the Keller Williams Rookie of the Year for the Carolinas region, which is all of North and South Carolina. Closed 48 deals as a solo agent that year. And I also ended that first year with 16 doors in my portfolio. And then fast forward a couple more years and we've expanded to Charlotte. And now we just changed our model and we're nationwide now. 5 Pillars team at EXP is my jam. It's a bunch of veteran, but also investor savvy, investor minded agents who've kind of built a community in trying to get agents out of the hamster wheel that is the agent life. And then up to 74 doors in my portfolio. And I just will stop rambling now, Jamie.
Not a ramble at all. There's so much there. And I want to touch on the hamster wheel that you talked about, as well as these 74 doors. But I want to go back a second here.
Sure.
Something you said that kind of interested me. You said the Army infiltrated your life in so many ways. You started to share examples of maybe like the moving and, learning how to be social in new environments. But what are some other things that you think today are representative of the fact, not your stint in the Army maybe, but from your childhood and what you observed of your father and the lifestyle that you had back then? I'm kind of curious, what other areas of your life today were impacted by that part of your childhood?
Yeah, I wonder how much of it was the military and how much of it was my father. Because now that I've been in the military, and you know this in every organization, there's different types of people, regardless of what the organization is. And so I actually, some of it I'm sure came from the Army, but a lot of it came from my dad. And he would repeatedly say certain sayings over and over again that I still hear in like the back of my mind now, where it's like standards, no compromise is one of them. And life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you deal with it. And PMA was something he would say all the time, like positive mental attitude. PMA all the way will take you to the top. So like I could go on. He literally brainwashed me as a child. And I'm so grateful because I live that shit. You know what I mean?
Good. I like that. Yes, that's awesome. On the flashing forward now, so you decide to join the Army. You talked about, that's an interesting take, how much of it was the Army. And then once you got in, you got a better sense of what the Army culture was about. Right. And really your dad's representation of the Army to you was maybe more what the influence was, or his brand, I guess. How much of the move to the Army was dad's push, dad's influence versus your sole desire to do so?
Combination. And it wasn't even my sole desire. A lot of people are like, oh, like you went out to serve your country, which like, I love my country, don't get me wrong. But ultimately I wanted to go to a certain college that my dad was like, I'm not paying for you, like figure it out. And so Army made sense because I got a full ride. I was in the ROTC program and got a scholarship. And then it was cool because you get a guaranteed job when you come out. So, that set me up for the next 4 years. So I'm sure a lot of it was an influence after seeing my dad and what he did in the military over the years, but it all kind of aligned to be the best route for me as well.
So you're young, 31, 32 years old. If I'm doing the math right?
I'll be 31 in September. Oh shit. 13 days.
13 days. There you go.
Yeah.
So 31 and 13 days. So You're young. You've had a lot of success in a short period of time. And the military takes you to about what, 24-ish? Is that when you left?
27.
So 21, 27.
Yeah.
And you've ramped up this portfolio of 74 doors and all of what you're doing post-military, or was it a little bit in the military?
So by the time I got out of the military, I had 3 doors technically. So when I first went to my duty station, back to my dad, dude, he should listen to this one.
We're not done with him. We're not done with him. I got more, but go ahead.
He's got a lot. I mean, we could do a whole thing on him. That man's wild. But when I was moving to my first duty station, back when I had just graduated, just commissioned into the military, my dad was like, Shelby, there's this thing and it's called a VA loan, and you can buy a house for 0% down. And then instead of paying someone else's mortgage, you can pay your own. I'm like, yeah, shut up, Dad, whatever. But ultimately, after I'd been there a couple months, I was like, that's kind of smart. And so ended up buying the place that I was renting. I just asked the owner if I could buy it. And so that was my very first door. It was a total not intentional investment property. It just made sense. And then I held it when I moved to North Carolina. And then my other 2 that I got before I got out was right before I got out. I closed on them in November of 2017 and I got out in December of 2018. So I started ramping up in the real estate, like the April of 2017 is when I made the decision. And so from there is when I started ramping up to be ready by 2018.
So still, I mean, 3 doors, it's not 74, right? 71 doors in a short period of time that you've grown, and you've got this passion around agents on the hamster wheel. I am curious, what was Dad's reaction to you leaving the Army, to you going down this path that you've gone down, a little bit less structured maybe than what he was used to growing up? I mean, It sounds like his mindset was pretty open when you were a kid, but I'm kind of curious what the dynamics were like with him, because it sounds like he's somebody that's been so central to your life. When you decided to leave the thing that he made a career out of and go down maybe an uncertain path in real estate, how did that fly? Any conversation? Was it completely fine? Kind of curious.
Father was not pleased. No. Okay. So yeah, he was not confident. Not that he lacked confidence in me. It's just an unconventional conversation. Hey, Dad, I'm going to leave the security of a job where I know how much income I'm going to get. I have all these benefits. Health insurance is a cool thing. And I'm just going to go out and I'm going into a completely 100% commission industry. And I'm going to become a real estate investor on the side as well. And originally both my parents were like, okay, let's think long and hard about this. And also please don't make the decision that you want to. But now after the fact, looking back, so they were concerned, of course, but I think my dad was also concerned about losing that direct connection with me. Like we talked about the military a lot. I would call him and ask questions. He had years and years of experience. So like when I was going through tough times, I'd call my dad and be like, hey, what do I do in this situation? So I think he was also nervous about losing that, to the point where he actually ended up getting his license when I got out and got really into real estate so we could have that. Not that he can never lose. But yeah, if that answers your question, they were not all about it, but now they're cool with it. So
well, yeah, it's the old saying of people will root against you until they're rooting for you. And I don't think they were rooting against you. I'm sorry, until you give them a reason to root for you, until it's popular to root for you. I don't think they were rooting against you. That wasn't your story. Those are my words. But it kind of is part and parcel with that. They had caution and concern. And then when they see you prove the model, it's like, yeah, hey, look at you. You're glad you did what you did. Similar story with my parents a little bit. But yeah, so with that then, you're 27, 28 years old. You're leaving the military. You're going down an uncertain path. You're kind of bucking the trend of a powerful, parental figure and what he feels is best for you. I'll be honest. I don't know if I could have done that at 27, 28. I don't know if I'd have the confidence or the wherewithal or whatever that you had to make that choice. I'd be very influenced, in other words, by somebody strong like your dad and his opinion, his life experience, all of that. What do you think in you allowed you to allowed you to follow this sort of, path that you have, or this whisper that you heard saying this is the direction you should go? What do you credit that to, if anything?
I hope it wasn't just me being naive and that it all just worked out by luck. But no, I would say that the honest answer of that is he raised me to be this way. So although it seems like this, bucking off the authority that, the strong, he also raised me to be strong and to be able to stand on my own 2 feet in any situation. And although it doesn't, he didn't appreciate it in that moment, it is the person that he wanted me to be. So thanks to him is the reason why I was able to do it.
There you go. So dad is the through line through all of the story. That's amazing. Talk to me about agents on the hamster wheel. That's an interesting phrasing that you used earlier. What does that mean? I'm not an agent. I think I get your point, but for those that may not be in that space, what does that mean? And then just take us through, what you've done maybe to start to get off of that or help others get off of that.
Yes. Okay. So agents on the hamster wheel. In the life of real estate as an agent and you're working for commissions, it's always about closing the next deal. And there's not a retirement that you're working for. There's no sort of residual income. It's like you close, you get a commission, you live until that commission is done. And then you go out and find the new one. And it's always like this feeling of like, oh God, what's next? And this pressure upon you. So I'm passionate about helping people take that active income that they earn from their commissions and pouring it into a passive income and asset. So either whether that's investing in real estate or being in touch with a firm that gives you the opportunity for passive investment streams of income, horizontal income. So like, for instance, the firm I'm with now has a revenue share model and stock options. And so I love that because it's like you are getting passive income from stuff that you would be doing anyway. And when you close deals, they give you stock into their company. So basically it all started with investing in real estate, though. I found the firm after the fact and I was like, this is just another stream and another cool benefit. But I've seen agents go for 20 years running on this wheel, and I want them to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it doesn't have to be that far away. It can be here soon.
Why don't so there's a lot of agents in GoBundance, but I feel like they go in both men's and women's. I feel like they get there, you get there because you may be a bit divergent mindset wise in this particular space from the regular agent, the run of the mill agent, if you will, or any other agent out there. Why don't agents think that way? What is it about that business that makes it feel like you got to keep going on the hamster wheel, you got to keep grinding, and they don't take that active and convert it to passive?
I'm really not sure that it ever even enters their radar. And I feel this way in a lot of things where people are like, well, why don't they think this way about, the information's out there, it's on the internet. Well, you have to know that you have to know where to look. You have to know what to search. You have to know it's even an option out there before you can open your mind to the possibility. And I think that comes from, the people who you choose to have in your circle and the influences that you choose to expose yourself to. It's the idea population. It's the cross-pollination of ideas that opens their eyes to, oh, wow, that is actually something that I could do. I could take this commission check and pour it into something that will pay me for life. So I think that it's just because they don't know. They haven't been exposed to it. If that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely. Yeah, to your point, they're not exposed to it. And I think the elephant in the room here a little bit that I want to talk about, this has been sort of swelling, is your relationship, not your relationship, but EXP specifically, who I think you mentioned you're in that, I don't know what the phrasing is, brokerage. Is that the right word?
Yes, firm brokerage.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Gotcha. Sorry. Again, not in that space. Why has that become so popular recently? I've heard a lot of people switching there. A lot of GoBundance members are coming into the EXP world.
Right.
You mentioned equity, you mentioned stock. I get that, but what is it about this EXP thing that keeps getting momentum? Why do I keep hearing about it?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I talk to agents all the time, like about whether or not they're happy where they're at. And it's a different conversation every single time based on what that person's looking for. But I would say the people in GoBundance, like, they're investor minded. They're and business minded. And it just, it makes sense because in EXP, you're going to be doing the same things that you do in other firms, closing deals, working with clients, transactional. But with that, you get the benefits of stock in the company for doing nothing else than you would have normally done. You're going to close a deal anyway, and they give you free stock in some situations. Other situations, you can buy their stock at 50%. Which is great. And then the revenue share model, people are like, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. Well, think about every business. Is every business not a pyramid? There's like someone who's at the top, whether or not whatever firm you're in. But the cool thing about EXP is like everyone's at the top of their own damn pyramid because it's all about bringing in people who are also on that same path and on that same drive into your community, and then helping them. That's the difference too between other firms. So in other firms, it becomes a competition. Generally, it's like, oh gosh, scarcity mindset. That's my deal. Whatever, I'm not going to teach you because then you'll be better than me. Whereas in EXP, it's beneficial to teach those around you to be successful, because when they're successful, the revenue share model takes into effect. When they're successful, the free stock comes your way. So it just builds like a completely different mindset, in my opinion, in so many ways.
It's been disruptive, right? And probably Keller Williams is the last brokerage that you could think of that had that kind of disruption that EXP has had recently. To your point, call it what your pyramid scheme, who knows? One part of this, and this is personally curious, but I know there are, like sort of non-agents, or I think there are non-agents that can be in the EXP sort of pipeline or in the downline or whatever, that are maybe, I don't know, influencers or people who invest or whatever, who still can benefit from being a part of EXP. How does that work? That's just that part I heard recently, and maybe you can explain it to me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, so that works by being able to attract performers. Because if you attract someone to EXP and they write you down as your sponsor, then when they close deals, it's part of that revenue share model of the cut that goes back to EXP anyway. EXP pays out roughly 50% of what was given to them in their revenue share model. And so that's how, if influencers can come in and be like, hey, I just got my license, come, whatever. And then if they attract producers, then it can be beneficial for them. But yeah, it's super cool. But it also like promotes, I could ramble about how it promotes you to share things. So like, for instance, Five Pillars team at EXP was an old school model, which old fashioned real estate team where we used to take 50% from our agents. And we did everything for them. We provided everything for them in exchange for 50% of their commission. And because of the revenue share model at EXP, I can now give away everything that I charged for 50% for free. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, use all these tools, of course, go out there and be successful. And so I think that that's the part that people overlook as well. It's like, sure, an influencer can come and make money, but also it like allows you to give out way more value without having to be like, I need something in return.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Again, one of those things that's come up a lot. And I just felt like, yeah, why not dive in here? We kind of jumped around it, but didn't touch it head on. So 74 doors, what does that look like? Is it 74 single family homes, multifamily? And give us a little bit more of a look into your deal flow, how you've accelerated so quickly.
Yeah. So right now there are 19 of those are short-term rentals. 4 of those 19 are arbitrages. So I guess it's 74 door plus 4 arbitrages.
Gotcha.
And then the rest are just long-term rentals. But ever since I discovered the power of short-term, I will not go back to long-term. It's so powerful. But yeah, so it's a complete variety of doors within this, of deals within this portfolio. I have a couple of single families. My short-term rentals are primarily single families. And then I have some small multis. So 8 unit, I have an 8 unit, I have a 6 unit, a 5 unit, and then a bunch of quads, tris, duplexes, and single families.
Is this in the Carolinas? Do you keep it local, or are you a little bit in different markets?
Yeah, so it's almost exclusively in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I have my one door that I still have in Washington State from my Army days. And then I have 2, and then I'm flipping one in Charlotte, where I'm at currently.
Gotcha. Do you have partners on this, or are you doing this all on your own at this point?
Yeah, so I have had partners. I have partners on some of them. There's a handful of these are 50-50. I have a couple that are 66%, and then I have the chunk is 100%.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you're literally taking active income from your work with EXP, your realtor days, and converting it over here, and then letting that,
Exactly.
that flip, that burr, whatever, just buy the next one, and going from there.
Yes.
Amazing. At your age, especially, I mean that. I mean, that's just unbelievable how quickly you've scaled and how disciplined you've been with this. But sounds like it's part and parcel to your story, right? The discipline that you came up with. So. That's your dad. That's your dad. Your old dad. All right, cool. We'll have to call this episode that, like, lessons from my what would you say? Rigid? To help me form the episode title right now. Lessons from my rigid dad.
Ooh, I gotta make sure it's something that he likes. So I'll think on it and let you know if that's okay.
Send me a message. Absolutely.
Okay, well.
All right, let's dive into the 6 pillars of GoBundance, go through the one sheet, and we're going to start with the first pillar, which is horizontal income. So talk to me about the lines of income. You mentioned multifamily, all of this stuff. Just give me kind of your lines of income right now. How many and where you you mentioned short term is becoming something you won't go back from. So I assume that's becoming a larger percentage of your income.
Yes. Okay. So essentially I have 5 different streams of horizontal income. The first of which is the rentals. So I have both short-term and long-term within that. And then I have the second is the stuff that I mentioned with the firm. So I have revenue share and stocks within that. The third would be referrals, which this is, I consider it passive, which by the way, passive horizontal, same. This is, yeah. Okay, cool. So I consider it this because with all things, I'm really about systematizing it, putting the right person in place, and then letting that person run the play. And so with referrals for real estate, I'm sure most people, maybe they don't know that when someone inquires to me, hey, Shelby, I'm looking to buy, sell, or invest, and then I pair them with an agent, that agent, when they close, usually gets 3% commission, and then they will give me a 25% portion of that 3% as a, hey, thanks for connecting us. And so with that, when inquiries come in via social media or networking events or whatever the case may be, I have a person in charge of the referrals for tracking, doing the paperwork, managing, following up, et cetera, to pay out. So that's the third source. Then we have a Pillars Investors program. So 5 Pillars team is my baby. And we have an investor program in which all of the tools that I talked about that we provided to our agents for that 50%, we allow, if people want to be a part of our little crew and have access to all those tools, systems, checklists, all of those things, then there's a subscription, and it's a monthly subscription for that. And then the last one is just apparel, which is completely outsourced through TeePublic. But
very
so
cool.
Yeah, those things.
Nice. I'm curious, apparel, what is the apparel? Is it what you're with, like the shirt you're wearing, or is it?
Yes. It's stuff like this, but then it's also like all the I series. You probably haven't seen them. It's like my community of real estate super nerds. It's probably pretty niche, but you'll see them now. People are wearing like iBur or iBur&B or iFlip. It's all of those houses. I mean, those shirts. Those are, and then we have like 5 pillar stuff, but no one really wants to wear that unless they're on the team. So
I like that. Well, hey, they say the riches are in the niches, so that's awesome that you've found a niche that you can market to. Go back real quick. I'm curious. You mentioned about the referral system that you have and how it's systematized. Somebody's looking at that. Somebody inquires on social media. They track your referrals. Can you get a little more nitty gritty on that? What is that like? Is that a VA that it takes it? Do you have a network of agents that you have an automatic referral to? Like, can you give me a sense of what that looks like?
Sure. Yeah. So when we changed our model from the old fashioned 50-50 split model to the EXP family tree model that we have now, I had an entire staff of admin. I had transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, the marketing, all of that sort of things. And so I went to each of them and was like, hey, look, we're changing our model. If you would like to start your own business, I will help you build up your own company and doing the same job that you're doing now. And then if the agents, if and when they want their services, they can go direct to you. And so, and I'm not taking anything from their company. This is just because I fucking love these people. They're like my humans. And so one piece of that was, which by the way, I went through the whole list of stuff that like, I did not want to take back. As you're building a business, you're like pushing different aspects into different people's lanes. So that way you can work on your 20% or the things that really bring you energy. And so I was going through the list of stuff that I like, I don't want to take that back. And one of those was the referral piece. And so the process looks like the inquiry comes to me. I forward it to Sarah, our referral girl. She pairs it with the respective agent based on the inquiry. So if it's a residential inquiry, an investor inquiry, the location, sometimes she has to interview if we don't have a team member specific to that location. Mm-hmm. And then she will, call, interview, do the document, the referral form. And then the most important part of really anything probably is the check-ins to ensure the follow through. Because as you know, in business and in life, you can't fire and forget a request. You can be like, oh, here's the referral form. Have a great day. See you. Because you'll never get paid out. You'll never know whether or not that client was happy and whether the thing got closed. And so she has a systemized process of just checking in with both the client and the agent to ensure things are on track and ensure the whole process goes smoothly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. That's great. I appreciate you going step by step through that. That's very helpful. Let's jump over to the age defying health section. So as a women's member, I'll ask what the women's one sheet says, which is how many pounds off goal, if any, are you right now?
Okay, so I tried to weigh myself this morning, actually, and my scale is dead. So it is now in the trash can. However, I feel freaking good right now. So in November, my team and I are going to Belize we do an annual international trip. This year we're going to Belize. And so there's a few of us who are like, yo, let's see how freaking shredded we can get between now and then. So today is day 7 of our 67-day challenge before Belize. And that's no processed food at all, nothing in a package, nothing processed, and no added sugar, no alcohol. Basically, if it grew from the ground or if it was killed, you can eat it. And the first couple of days were kind of rough. But I'm feeling very light. I'm feeling very strong. Like I did sprints this morning and I was like, fuck, I was flying in my head. Yeah. I was not really flying.
Well, it feels good, right? Hey,
yeah.
I've got some dead frogs in our pool filter. Happy to send them down there if that helps. If we killed them with chlorine. I don't know if that counts.
You know what? Maybe I'll check. There's one guy who's kind of in charge about telling us whether or not we can eat it. So I'll throw that in the group chat. Thank you very much for.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'll package them up on ice and I'll send them 24 hours to you. So, hey, I just want to feed. I want to feed you. I want to make sure you have enough protein going into this whole 7-day challenge. Of course. So diet, we talked about exercise. You mentioned running. What else do you do for exercise, or is that kind of your primary thing? Is it getting out and running?
It's literally never been my primary thing until super recently. So I grew up competitive gymnast, hardcore. So love that. Love anything with my body, like hopping fences, climbing over shit. And so I loved CrossFit. When I got out of the military, I found CrossFit and I was like, this is my jam. And I competed, would travel, do competitions, all the things. And then I was starting to hurt, man. Like my back hurts, my freaking hips hurt, my shoulder. And so I've been taking a little break. And with that, I've been running, which has been helpful though, because getting my head set in the morning, whether it's listening to music and just being with the trees, there's something about nature, or whether it's learning whatever topic it is of the moment, it's been really powerful time for me, which is cool.
Mental and physical, I guess, aligning the two at the same time, right?
Yes.
That's very cool. Are you trail running or more just running in your neighborhood kind of thing?
So neighborhood sometimes, but even super close to my neighborhood, I live right by Freedom Park, which for those of you near Charlotte, it's super cool park. And there's also a greenway, which runs right along a river. So there's the little river stream thing, and then it runs through trees where you can't see any people, no houses. And so it's those moments where you can pull yourself out of where you are and see how insignificant you are. And it's a really good reset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, getting back to nature, getting quiet, getting clear. It makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. You're grounding in some ways. Totally. How about family? We talked about dad, mom, married, kids, single. What's your family status right now?
I'm not married, no kids. I haven't picked out though. So we'll probably get married in the next year, and then kids are on. I want them, I think. So growing up, I was like, nah, no kids. Even when I was hardcore business, real estate grind, hustle every single day, I was like, kids, no way. And now I'm like, holy shit, what could be more powerful and fulfilling and cool than just have a little human that you can create into hopefully an amazing, future leader of the world.
I love that. Hey, think big, right? Absolutely. My wife and I were the same way. We were married 5 years, and it was always, why would we have kids? I remember we lived in Boston, and we would fly to Vegas that day. What do you want to do tonight? No, let's go to Vegas. I the hell with it, right? Nothing tying you down, and we would do that. Right. And it took a drive down the Pacific Coast Highway for us to spend a lot of time together and say, what's next? Let's see if we have kids. Let's try for kids. So, and she was, about 30. So I think there's probably a natural timeline in there. I was in my mid 30s at that point, but a natural timeline in there where it starts to feel like, you know what, what's the purpose? What's next? And then I'll tell you, you'll have the first kid. You won't want a second kid until the first kid is one. And then you'll start to forget everything and want that second kid, only to say, oh, wow, that's right. this was tough. And then people, they either go down the path of like, I'm done. That was us. Or they want 3, 4, 5, 8 kids. So we'll see. I'll follow your path for the next few years. We'll see what happens.
Dude, thank you for sharing that. I love and I would love to pick your brain on the whole, what you've discovered. Cause I love hearing when people we're similar, like, kids, why? Yeah. And then make that change. It's cool. So thank you.
Oh yeah. We could absolutely chat. We'll chat after we stop recording. I love it. All right. So we talked about family life happiness. What's your life happiness index right now? And what are you working on in that?
Okay. So my life happiness index, switch tabs here. It says 7.68, which so this was kind of interesting for me because it's super subjective and it's all depends on how hard you want to be on yourself. And it's like, okay, my life happiness index compared to X, or is it like what I want?
It could be either. So here's one. Like there's one in there, something like music and dance, right? And some, it's funny. This question comes up more from the smarter tribe, the women's tribe. The guys' tribe is like, I don't dance, no music, 0. Like this binary caveman brain, right? But the best take I've heard on that is like, well, if you don't care about music, and if it's not something that you really want in your life, then it's perfect. Could it be a 10? I mean, it's exactly where you want it to be. So I don't know if that helps, but that's the best explanation I've heard. So I don't know if that changes your life happiness index at all, but
I'll go through it again.
So what do you think you're working on most right now then?
Honestly, it's funny, this turned into a big family thing, but what I'm working on most is I've taken a hardcore gap between when I got out of the military, when my brain just lit on fire in regards to real estate, making the future that I want to be, as opposed to I was just living before, punching the clock. And the change that I'm making now is during those 3 years where I was full throttle grind every single day, I really lost touch with some of the relationships that I hold dear just because I was so hyper focused. And if it wasn't directly in my path of progress, it was, I will get to that later. And it's been a, good realization that I need to refocus. So I'm going to spend more time with my parents and with my family, and those relationships who really matter to me, but I haven't done a good job of showing it.
Interesting. What is there a feeling of obligation in doing that, or is there a feeling of desire?
That is such a good question. It is definitely both. So the obligation is there, but also they've told me, we'd love to see you more. We'd love to hear from you more. And and even they've told me for a while now, but it's now that I'm starting to listen. And so there was like the obligation, part of it, but then more and more, as I look forward to what I want in my life and my future and my family and my kids, it's like, I want my family to be a big part of that. And also their experiences that shaped me into who I am. I feel like I want to learn more about that and how that they made the decisions that they did. And I just feel like all together it could shape for a much more beautiful future for all of us.
No, I like that. It's tough. It's a tough thing. I struggle with this myself. And there is definitely that feeling of obligation. And, I don't want to have the regret, they're gone and I didn't spend the kind of time I could have with them or whatever, right? Especially as they age and I age for that matter. But there is an interesting sort of beautiful selfishness in some way, I guess I could say, to leaning into, the people that I do lean into and not as much to the folks that I call it, the difference between the folks that are in my remember when bucket, family, friends that I've had forever,
right.
Versus the folks that are in my imagine when that can see the future version of me bucket, which is GoBundance in many ways. There is an energy I get maybe, and again, I feel a little guilty about it, an energy I get in bucket B that I don't quite feel the same level of in bucket A. Like I'm ticking the time down with bucket A and I can't wait to get to bucket B, if that makes sense. But I have the obligation to bucket A. I don't know where the buckets came from, but I don't know if that makes sense or not, but does that resonate, or is that kind of where you are?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. And I agree. I feel far more energy around certain people, for sure. But I do want to be more appreciative of the fact, for me, this is me personally, that other people have things to offer in different ways that I have not appreciated it, but I know it's there. And if I allow myself to slow down enough and stop thinking about all the things ahead and really be appreciative of what there is presently to give. I think that's what I'm shooting for. And not even saying like spend all my time there. Like I'm still totally bucket whatever the energy bucket was. But if that makes sense.
B. I think it was B.
B.
Or A. I don't know, whatever one it was. No, that's great. You really did, I think, a nice job, because I was honestly asking for me because I struggle with that. I just had this conversation with my parents yesterday. Like, we used to talk a lot more. Like, I know, sorry. But it is funny how, and nothing against my parents, they're wonderful people, but like, right. I crave the energy of this, of this group that I'm around. And this future set, but I like how you brought it back to the simple concept of just being present. Being present allows you to kind of see the value of spending time with both groups of people, if you will, or cultivating relationships that mean something to you, as you said. So no, really well said. A lot of wisdom in that. I appreciate that. Contribution. Let's go into that real quick. We're wrapping up on time. What do you contribute, or what percentage do you try to contribute? Time, money, either way, per year.
So I much more contribute time, at least at this point. And I think that will change as I continue to grow. But right now, so I like to spend my time with agents that just like we talked about, who want change. I'm done trying to push, hey, look at this. Hey, that is the most exhausting thing that you can do, is try to make people care. And so the model has changed that anyone who wants time and focus and energy and who gives back to that, that's where I pour my time. So that's like the micro scale, like the one-on-one interactions, but then also community-wide. I'm really passionate about this thing it's called Pints Properties. It's a real estate investors meetup where once a month people get together to collaborate about real estate nerd stuff, learn something, and then drink a beer, because Pints and Properties. And so it was started as a place for me to meet other people, and it's turned into this place where people gravitate to learn and become build a community of like-minded people. It really, you find your people there. And so that's the other place where I give, and I'm passionate about giving. And that's like kind of the community level, if that makes sense.
No, I have a meetups group I started here for the same reason. Hey, I want to have people know me, so they send me deals, send me leads, send me everything. And it turned into, I get a lot of, somebody posted in our little Facebook group, hey, because of this group, I met so-and-so and so-and-so, and we we just did a $4.5 million deal together, and that serves my soul. So I 100% resonate with what you just said. So no, I appreciate you saying that. How about future adventures? What's coming up? What are you excited about? Belize, you mentioned, is that the big one, or is there something else that maybe you're looking forward to?
So excited about the next probably 6 months.
So FinCon's next month, and then Bigger Pockets Conference. I freaking can't wait. I'm so excited. And then after that would be Belize, was the one that I was thinking of as my next big, because damn, like getting the team together, especially now that we've been so virtual, it's like, especially in a foreign country, doing shit like jumping off of whatever, learning how to surf, like horseback riding through the jungle. It's like those moments where you really bond with people,
100%. That's awesome. I enjoy it. I'll watch on Instagram to see how that trip goes. So we're talking, let's see, we're in mid-September or early September. So we're talking early November or early to mid-November. Right. Yeah.
And we're all going to be shredded, man, because this beach party diet.
I'll watch for shredded people jumping off stuff in mid-November on your Instagram feed.
Perfect.
All right, let's wrap this with a question from the GoBundance card deck. You have the 8 of Hearts, which, as I say every week, means nothing. The question is, when did you prove someone wrong after they told you it won't happen?
Real estate in general would be a big one for almost everyone who I worked with in the military. There was a few people who were supportive, but most people were totally scoffed at the idea. And then after that first year, being Keller Williams Rookie of the Year as an agent, and as well as acquiring, 16 doors by the end of that first year, I think that's one of those moments where you look back and it's like, I did it, kind of. It's never done. It's always a work in progress, but it's, you take like 30 seconds to be proud of yourself and then start working on the next thing. But I was proud for those 30 seconds.
That's amazing. Well, like we said, right? People will root against you until it's popular to root for you. And you've made it very, very easy and popular to root for you. So I appreciate you telling us telling us your story today. What is the best way for people to follow you, reach out to you, whatever you want to kind of let us know? What's the best way to learn more about you?
Yes, if you follow me on Instagram, it's Real Estate with Shelby Osborne, Facebook Real Estate with Shelby O, or 5pillarsrealty.com. You can connect with us there, and that's really the best way.
Love it. Love it. Shelby, I appreciate you taking the time today. Thanks so much for all of your wisdom and info, and I hope to meet you very soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks again for having me.
Of course. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know down in the comments, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be informed on the next episode and other content right here on this channel. Thank you.